Please be seated. God created enough. God created enough light. God created enough earth, sea, and sky, sun, moon, and stars. God created enough plants, trees, and vegetation. God created enough creatures of the sea, birds of the sky, and animals of the land. God created enough human beings in God's own likeness. And God saw that it was good. God created enough. Throughout the Bible, there are stories that remind us that God created enough. In a favorite childhood story found in the first book of Kings, a poor widow of Zarephath is gathering sticks to make a fire. There has been a drought in the land. She is about to bake her last loaf of bread with a handful of flour and drops of oil she has left over. God sends Elijah the prophet to the woman. Elijah is hungry. He comes to the woman and asks her for a drink of water and a small cake of bread. She knows she has just enough for one small cake of bread to feed herself and her son, but she hesitates to refuse Elijah. Elijah instructs her, "Bake the bread, there will be enough." He assures her that she will not run out of flour or oil until the drought is over and the rains arrive. The woman trusts the word of the man of God, and she obeys. Her stock of flour and oil never run out. There was enough. In another story from the book of Exodus, the Israelites cry out to God in the desert that they are hungry. God hears their cry and rains down manna from the heavens. God feeds them. The only instruction Moses, the leader, gives the people is to gather enough manna that each one needs, and only what they can eat that day. The rest, he says, will spoil. There was enough. In the story of the feeding of the 5,000 or the 4,000, familiar to many of you, I'm sure, Jesus takes what a little boy offers, his lunch, of 4 loaves of bread and 2 fish. He thanks God, blesses it, breaks it, and shares it. There was enough to feed and satisfy the thousands. And there were 12 baskets left over. There was enough. Often, we act as if there is not enough. We don't always remember that God created enough. We forget to turn to God, who we say we trust, the one who provides. And we begin to worry. I don't know about you, but I become anxious that there is not enough time, not enough money, not enough trust. And my list goes on and on. In our gospel reading today, Jesus talks about the foolishness of greed. Take care. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for your life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. Jesus cautions us that our life's worth is not in what we have, It is in how we live. Jesus then tells this parable. There is a rich man who owns land that produces abundantly. The man's first thought is, what should I do with the surplus of the harvest? His barns are already full. He has enough and more to spare. And yet he thinks only of himself, with no thought for anyone else. He plans for his future. Except God speaks to him, saying, "You fool, you will die tonight. Now who will possess all that you have stored? What will happen to all you treasure?" Jesus concludes the parable by saying, "So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich towards God." What does it mean to be rich towards God? Luke's Jesus seemed to be making the point that accumulating treasures for ourselves and being rich toward God are mutually exclusive. Looking out for ourselves and our own kindred alone is not enough. As followers of Jesus, we are called to love one another as God loves us, to care for each other as God cares for us, to share with each other all that God freely gives us. Throughout the Hebrew and Christian scriptures, there are many passages that point to the danger of greed or covetousness. In Exodus 20, we read about how greed violates the law of Moses. And in Micah 2, how greed violates the teachings of the prophets. Stories from the Acts of the Apostles and Paul's letters illustrate the issue of greed in the early church. In today's epistle reading, the writer to the Colossians labels greed as idolatry. A passage I heard recently from a Bible study of the Poor People's Campaign speaks to some of the issues of our present day. Quote, "God condemns the private accumulation of wealth from the general impoverishment of society. Instead, we are called to reorganize our lives together. We are called to make a final break from the lie of scarcity and embrace the fullness of our abundant world. And this call is all around us. It's in the demands to stop rationing healthcare and to stop closing hospitals in cities, small towns, and rural areas. It's in the mobilization to prevent evictions and move families into empty homes. It's in the demand for food stamps, living wages, and guaranteed income. All of these voices and struggles carry a fundamental message from God. There is enough here. Share it. Take only what you need and care for one another." End quote. Enoughness, Franciscan Richard Rohr writes, is not something we can achieve. It is gift from God. I suggest that an attitude of enoughness can be cultivated by a daily practice of enoughness. Years ago, a friend shared a mantra that she used daily. I am enough. I have enough. I do enough. Years later, I adopted this mantra and still remind myself of it. This saying, I have come to understand, is based on my belief that God created me. In God, I am enough. I am loved and accepted by God. When we learn to trust in that inherent enoughness, we gradually understand that striving for external validation and possessions becomes less important. We learn to live in gratitude, which leads to a spirit of generosity. We strive for simplicity. We learn to live connected to God and to one another. God created enough. A practice of enoughness will not happen overnight. It is a process, and it will take time. Only in God are we made complete and whole. That inherent enoughness is something we need to hold on to and remember. So let us all take some time to reflect on these deep questions. What is it that is of enduring value in your life today? What is the life you treasure? I close with these lines from Rumi. There is a force within that gives you life. Seek that. In your body, there is a precious jewel. Seek that. O wandering one, if you are in search of the greatest treasure, don't look outside. Look within and seek that. You are enough.